That's right, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, you have just tuned in to Exit 92 Radio's Real Merican Live with a Real Merican Hero. That's right, the Big Bad Boo Hip Bear tonight, DJ Hano, and our very special, awesome guest, Mr. Lur.
How you doing today, Mr. Larry?
I'm doing fine. I'd like to, first, before we get started real good, I'd like to thank you guys for having me. Oh. And most of all, I'd like to thank my Vietnam veteran buddies. Welcome home. But other than that, I'm doing fine.
For sure, man.
I'm looking forward to this tonight. So,
well, we're looking forward to it too, man.
Ask away.
Glad. We're doing a 4-song break to get it started. Okay. Let everybody get tuned in and everything. And we're going to get the show started. That's Mr. Lur. He's a Vietnam veteran. This man put his life on the line for us back in the 70s and the 80s. And he has given us the honor of having him on for interview tonight. So once again, thank you. We're going to get this started after a 4-song break. We got Cotton Overdrive coming up, then Dirty Roses, Cocaine and Whiskey. Keep it locked in live tonight on Real Merican Live. Hey, everybody, we are back live here on Exit 92 Radio with the Big Bad Boo Bear, with DJ Hano, and a Real Merican Hero, Mr. Lur. Mr. Lur, like I said before, we started this case for you guys who are just tuning in here. Mr. Lur, Larry, I call him Mr. Lur.
I'm used to it.
Larry here is a Vietnam vet, certified pyrotechnic, right? Mm-hmm. Not pyrotechnician. That was
pyrotechnician.
What license do you got?
It's the one it's authorized and regulated by the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms government.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a light, so if the place goes up tonight, we know why. We got to make sure it's really nice, Mr. Larry. So, Larry, let's hop right into it. We've got him on tonight to talk a little about his history in Vietnam and his history. And by the way, I got to correct myself before the break. I was talking about the 70s and the 80s, when in retrospect, in the 60s. Yeah. You went over in the 60s.
In the middle 60s.
Middle of the 60s.
Yeah.
So it's the middle of the 60s. Vietnam, we just started, going to war in Vietnam, trying to help. If I'm correct, we're going over there to help spread democracy. And did you get drafted, or did you voluntarily sign up? How'd that work?
I was drafted right out of high school.
Drafted out of high school.
Yeah, I'm a draftee.
Do you agree with the draft in retrospect now, or?
Well, in a way, yes.
In a way, yes.
And the reason I say that is the 2 years that I was in the military service, I probably grew up, matured as a young man in those 2 years in military service, and that included the year in Vietnam, than I did in probably 10, 15 years after that.
Okay.
So it was an early, kind of like a early maturity.
Like a wake-up call.
Wake-up call. And yes, as far as the draft, let's get back to that. No, I don't think we need a draft. But I do think that every young man from 18 to, say, 25 needs to pull a minimum of a 2-year hitch in the military. And the reason I say that is because it helps you mature. You grow up, and when you get out, I think you learn some decency and manners, and I don't think we'd have the crime and the drugs and all that stuff that we've got today. And then again, it may not. I don't know. I just that's the way I feel.
Oh, nothing wrong with that. I mean, my only thing with the draft, of course, I was never alive when the draft, wasn't stated, is that it does make some people begin to resent, the military, and not only, I honestly, I wouldn't have made it in the military. Oh my God, I wouldn't have made it in the military. I'm a pansy. That's all there is to it. You know what I mean?
The Boo Bear would have been passed out in the pouring rain underneath the barbed wire fence.
Yeah,
in the mud.
the first PT at 4 in the morning, I would have told him, "Go fuck yourself." That's not happening. It's 4 o'clock. I don't get up till 7:30. All right, I don't get out of bed until 8. You know what I mean?
We didn't get up that early in the military unless we had some incoming rounds, and then we were up. And then, of course, we'd go in our bunkers or slit trenches, get away from the mortar fire. But that only lasted a few minutes.
So you know,
I like how you talk about that so nonchalantly, like we didn't have to get up early unless we were being shot at, but we were only down there for a few minutes, so it's all good.
It's not that big of an inconvenience.
It just really kind of screwed up a good night's sleep. I mean, we were up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and there was a few things. Now this was in the combat zone. Now, and back here in America, it was 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then you had PT to do, and then it was breakfast, and then whatever your training schedule was for the day.
Yeah, you have to work out in the military before you can eat breakfast.
Exactly.
Not feeling that. I'm not
You have to
feeling
do pull-ups and push-ups.
I have to have that donut and cigarette.
The low crawl, huh?
I have to have that donut and cigarette in the morning before.
I went off for a weekend at an army base with the National Guard, and I went off for the whole weekend and did what they did for a weekend just to see if I would like it or not. The next morning when we woke up and we had to go out there and stretch and do push-ups and pull-ups and everything before we even ate breakfast, I was like, are you serious? I was talking because my buddy, you could bring somebody in like with you, if they were in
It's
ROTC
like a
and stuff like that, because I was in ROTC in high school. And, and they would bring you in and, you would just go do what they did. Like I ran and did the workouts and everything. And we got up the next morning, and I was like, okay, we went to the bathroom. We're all good with that. Our beds are made. Everything's all good with that. And then we start heading out to the track in the field where we're going to go work out. And I'm like, whoa.
Kitchen's over there.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Chow's that way.
Chow's back that way. I'm not feeling
He was
this.
like, no, dude, we got to work out before we can eat. And I was like,
God.
oh, man, this is going to be a long day.
You were speaking of donuts and cigarettes. Boot camp, no. But I tell you what, they did have in boot camp.
Sandwiches?
No, they call them pogie bake machines.
Pogie bake machine.
Yeah, they actually had the drink machines, the old timey drink machines. Where you put your money in and pull it out to the little door.
Yeah.
And they also had the candy bar machine, cracker machines, and they had them all over our company area in different areas. But because we were recruits, that was called pogie bake. In other words, we couldn't have any of that at all. Don't be caught there. But it was a form of discipline. You don't get caught, because you'd have to get down and give whoever caught you
like 25 or something.
Get down and give me 25.
Yeah, give me 25
to work that candy bar off.
Do you get to keep your candy bar?
Oh no.
So wait, you're making me do push-ups and you're taking my candy bar?
Yeah,
no, where do I get anything?
Yeah, you could get. Of course, back in the day. I mean, I'm talking back in the day.
Back mid-60s.
Way back in the day.
Way back there, you could get a candy bar out of the machine for like 10, 15 cents. Coke was 10.
So it wasn't like a horrible loss, but still,
No.
So it's mid-60s. You've just got your draft notice in the mail. What was your first initial response to being drafted? Were you happy, proud, or were you a little fearful? I mean, how did you feel when you first got in?
Being in high school, Vietnam was just getting started. I was in '64, and we had started sending advisors to Vietnam. '65, I think, when the first ground troops hit Vietnam. But here we are, still in high school, and I said, all right, they're coming up with the draft. They're going to start sending boys overseas to Vietnam. I was working on a farm, and we didn't have time for that kind of foolishness, to think of being scared or frightened or excited. But who it really excited the most, give anxiety, was our parents.
Of course, yeah.
My mother, she got the mail, and your son, and there it was my draft notice. So,
wow.
But me, I know that's a fair piece to go back to remember, but to be honest with you, I wasn't scared, I wasn't frightened, I was kind of concerned. We hadn't heard about anybody getting killed over there and that kind of stuff, but I just let it go. Of course, my dad was drafted in World War II.
Yeah. You mentioned
so
that.
he didn't know. I mean, I'm sure his parents, my grandparents, were concerned, because we'd had a war before that, was World War One. And
did you have any of your family members in World War One?
Had family members in World War One.
So this is a family, lineage.
Over the years, yeah, we've had family members from as far back as I've gone back, and I hadn't even used our ancestry to go back any further than that. This is from talking to the actual individual. Okay. From World War I through Korea, World War II, Korea, and then of course family members in Vietnam. And every single male that ever served our country come home.
That's good.
Come home.
Great ratio to walk in.
Great ratio, and we joke about it now, but they said, well, if there's so many family members that went over, how did y'all all make it back without injury or losing your life? And I said, well, we were country folks. We did two things as country people would do: get behind a bigger tree or dig deeper holes. But no, in all seriousness, God was with us. That was the main thing. So, and we were all brought up in Christian families, and so we had a lot of people home, Christian families in our family praying for us. So I think that had a lot to do with it. So, and of course ourselves, those that were Christians, we did a lot of praying. We prayed for our other buddies.
Sometimes that's the best thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So you walk into the processing place, you get there, they shave your head, they give you your number, you have to go through the physical, and then you get in there with that bunker of guys that you're probably going to be spending a good amount of time with, So is it important to try and, begin a camaraderie type relationship with your platoon right off the bat, or, did you kind of try and stay to the side, just kind of keep to yourself? Or?
Well, the way it started out is once you're drafted and you have to go through all the steps once you're inducted. In other words, you've passed all your physicals.
Yeah.
You've taken written exams and to see if you fit mentally and physically.
What were the written exams like? I didn't know you had written exams.
Oh, I mean,
was it like just
like
math?
Kind of like taking math. I mean, it's kind of like taking
a test
in school.
Like the ASVAB.
Okay, it's like the ASVAB. All right,
so once you get all that done, then you're sent. You take all these tests with a group, and they could be 30 or 40, and not all of those guys will be able to be accepted in the military for whatever reason. Here in something physical or something mental,
that kind of thing.
Some physical or mental reason, and then they're given that. The 4F or 4A or 1A. Well, anyhow, that's back in the day, the classification. And then from there, you receive your orders, your military orders. Could be anywhere in the country to a military base to do basic training. Mine was in Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
Wow.
Some of the guys that I did all this with, the testing with, we didn't all go to the same place. Some went to Fort Carson, Colorado. Some went to Fort Benning. Some went to Fort Bragg. Some went to Fort Polk, Louisiana. So we went everywhere. We were just didn't have any particular Army buddy that stayed with me even after I got out of basic training. And then, of course, we did our basic training. There was other testing that we did. They still give you physical and mental aptitude tests.
Yeah, to make sure you're still.
Well, I wound up not going to advanced infantry training at all.
Oh, really?
Apparently, the military seen something different in me that I didn't see.
Okay.
So we're not going to make you a ground pounder, somebody in the infantry. So they sent me to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, which is engineer army training.
Okay.
So there
So you're fixing stuff and working on things.
Well, you get in and you get different classifications. I started out as a 12A10. Now to the civilian, what the hell's a 12A10?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
To us that's been in the military, some of us know what those MOSs are. Mine was a 12A10, which is a pioneer. They teach you how to use a shovel, put down culverts, build bridges. But I specialized in, to start with, is handling TNT, and that's the old explosive.
Don't use that anymore.
I don't use that anymore. I use the C4, which is the plastic explosive,
They still use
and
that.
the det cord. Now they use that, the det cord. Of course, that goes along with blasting caps. But that's what I trained in doing in Fort Leonard Wood. So they said that, that some of the troops here will be staying stateside, and some of you troops will be going to Vietnam. But we can't tell you what you'll be doing.
Yeah.
So after that 8 weeks of non-infantry training, but constant engineer-type training in the dead of winter, and if you have never done any kind of military training in the dead of winter, ice, creeks, ponds, and that kind of stuff freezes over. They woke me up, and to make a long story short, some of the boys that were from up north that was with me knew that I was from Florida and never seen snow. Well, about 3 o'clock in the morning, they woke me up. They called me Andy. It's short for Anderson. Andy, come out here. 3 o'clock. Wake me out of a good sleep. I go outside and there's snow about 4 or 5 inches deep on the ground. Well, I tell you what, I was like a new kid the morning. Never seen that much snow in my life.
Larry's like, I don't even care you woke me up anymore.
After about 2 weeks of seeing snow up to my knees, marching and walking in it from our
could get a little old.
Housing, you walk in it and be all powder and fluffy, and
oh man, you're trying.
By the time you come back, it was nothing but slush.
Of
course, they furnish us with the they call them rubber galoshes.
Yeah.
Slide over your leather boot.
It was still cold though.
It was still cold.
The reason I ask you about if you had any guys that stuck with you is because the way that once again, and we've talked about this a few times off here. The way the movies portray, especially like Full Metal Jacket and other films, they portrayed this great camaraderie. I don't know if you've seen any kind of what's the word for it over there? If you've seen any kind of combat or anything like that.
The position I was in. Before I get to that, I'll finish answering. I'll go back to what you were saying about having a band of brothers or a group of
that's why I was at
of buddies. I didn't have those until I left Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and then they shipped me to Fort Dix, New Jersey, which was in the First Army area. And when we got there, they said, all right, you've got so many weeks before we start training. There'll be some training going on. You'll be pulling KP and guard duty here and there now. And once we become full strength, which was like over 200 guys just in my company alone, then we got down to brass tacks. And that was we got into the specialized training, heavy equipment, taught us how to to operate dozers and graders and front end loaders and dump trucks. Said this equipment that you're learning to use now, going to Vietnam.
You actually have somebody in the chat room there, Lucresa.
Carissa from work.
Is that
Carissa from work is
Carissa.
That's our chat room. It's a live chat room. People are listening as you're talking right now. And they're chatting on. She says, "I love Mr. Larry. He is a true hero." Yes, he is.
Oh, thank you.
And Jason says, "Don't eat the yellow
snow."
No, do none of that. But we started having our buddy relationships there once we were in our permanent unit, and they said you will be training for the next 6-8 months, and then you'll be deployed to overseas. But anyway, that's where we started, having that relationship, having a close buddy, probably closer than your own brother.
You have to. You're going into a situation.
But that's, through basic AIT, we didn't. We had, buddies that we'd go to the PX with, or go to a club and drink beer or something like that with. But as far as having that closeness, we didn't. Of course, now they call it the Band of Brothers, like World War II.
Yeah.
But our Band of Brothers didn't form until I got into my permanent unit.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we were there for 8-9 months training, stateside, and in the next 12 months, tour duty, we were there. So we were together then. So that's how we became buddies. And yes, I did make some real good buddies.
Well, that's good, you know. Cause I talked to some of my own family members and people that I know who have been in World War II. I had a guy that I knew. He's gone. He's passed away now. He was in World War II. He made it all the way through. He would talk about the relationship with the people going into any kind of conflict, because you have to put your life in their hands, and they're putting their life in your hands, and it's this trade-off, and it becomes this relationship that lasts for ever.
It does.
And I was just wondering if that had been something that you had experienced in Vietnam.
Yeah, it was kind of, you got my back, I got yours. I didn't see anybody take anybody else's life, or I didn't hear of anybody taking somebody else's life because they got pissed at one another. Sure, there was fist fights, but man, when it was over with, it's like being stateside, like being in high school. You beat the shit out of it. Oh, well, I'm supposed to say that? But anyway, you get to beat the hell out of each other, and the next day you're back at school, and it's like it never happened. You just have the battle scars. Yeah. And that's the way it was over there. I never, we never seen, or, I mean, we might have heard of it once in a while, but we didn't, amongst ourselves, we didn't see or hear that.
Your family,
I mean, we didn't pull a rifle. I mean, we didn't pull a loaded rifle on anybody, or a bayonet, or a knife on anybody. It was either all mouth or it was fisticuffs, and there was only like 2 or 3 punches, and bam, it was over with, and it didn't last a minute.
Different era of men.
Different era of men. Yeah.
My father, this Jason there in the chat room, and he says one of yours, my grandpa's buddies, built the ramp at the house when he had his stroke. Oh, okay. I'm getting, because Grandpa was in the war as well. I can't remember which war he was in, but I guess the time when his buddies built the ramp over there. Anyway, so you've been shipped all across the country. Jersey, Florida, Missouri. Everywhere. That final shipping. Where you head to Vietnam and you walk off the plane or the boat. I think you said you went over by boat. Mm-hmm. You walk off the boat after that 4-week journey. Into
28 days.
28 days. And you see this atmosphere you have never seen before. You're walking on the soil. It's not home to you. And, you already have heard about how people are treating you if you're coming in trying to help them. What is your first thought getting off that boat? With your buddies. You're walking into this new land to fight people who don't want you there.
Well, to back up and repeat what you said, yeah, once our training was over with, we loaded everything up. It left 2 weeks ahead of us on a cargo ship. We flew across country, and we shipped out of Oakland on a big troop transport, and there was over 3,000 of us. So there's 3,000 of us plus the crew sharing this big boat, and we was on the water 28 days. Mm-hmm. Now, to get back what you're saying, well, once we got into the harbor, what really freaked me out was when these LSTs pulled up alongside of us and they had the nets dropped over the ship like they did in World War II. I said, oh my God, we're going to invade like they did in World War II. That was my first thought. Oh hell, what am I getting into? 19 years old, having to climb down the side of a ship.
Oh my goodness.
And they get, some of those NCOs that were with us, they get a kick out of us recruits.
Yeah. Y'all still fresh and such.
Still fresh. I mean, we're trained. We're ready. I mean, we're combat ready.
But this is
and here we're going over the side of this damn ship, and they're putting us on the same damn kind of LSTs that they landed in Normandy. I said, oh crap! And you could see the land, but there was nothing blowing up. Off in the distance, you could see smoke. Back over here, you could see smoke, but it was nothing like you would think.
Yeah.
Well,
real quick, LSTs. What does that stand for? I don't know.
It's a landing craft.
Okay.
You know, where you load up in there and you stand up, and then when you get to the beach, the
door comes down.
The nose drops off, and then you step off with all your gear. Well, that at the time scared the hell out of me. Because, we invade like they did in D-Day. But actually, no, what we were doing was they were going to land us on the beach, and it was like a walkway to the beach, and you could see a plane take off. And then you'd see one come in, and you'd see another one take off.
Busy, huh?
Busy.
Airport, yeah.
So what they were doing was they was unloading us off this ship, and we were unloading, and we were walking up the beach, and there was a runway, an airfield, and they loaded us. They said, all right, we count off, and they'd stop you because they could only put so many on the plane. They put me on a C-123.
Okay.
They called it a flying boxcar, and had no dang idea where we were going until we got there. And it was like a 35 minute flight, and we landed. And my first base camp station there was called Fuloy.
Okay.
And that's what they had done was, and of course it's funny, you can think about, landing craft, damn, we invade. But going back to what you said about how I felt, the first thing after thinking about we were invading, like they did at D-Day, was the smell.
Really? Was it different smell?
It was just it was, I can't explain it, but it was just a different smell.
Really?
But what you could see, you could see palm trees, you could see all kind of vegetation. It was pretty country.
Is it?
I didn't see nothing burnt, blowed up, and nothing. Damn, what's going on?
See, that's how they portray it, in the films in Hollywood.
They are only showing the worst.
Yeah, the barren landscapes and the buildings torn apart, and Saigon, and it's you never think Vietnam was actually a gorgeous country to be in. For a vacation, would you went there for just a vacation?
Sure would. Some of the prettiest country. I mean, for a supposedly a war-torn country, it was pretty. And I got pictures and slides of some of the hills. They had hills there like we have here in America. They had mountains, small mountains like we have here in America. I mean, green. What took me by storm was all damn rice paddies. Pretty and green. I mean, some of the prettiest rice.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
People talk
but
about
we
that.
flew. It was like a 35-minute flight, and we landed, and the airstrip there at Fuloy was actually on the base. So I didn't get to see any of the foreigners or foreign people, the Vietnamese people, for a day or two. And then of course when I started seeing that is we were convoyed out of the base into Saigon Harbor, where our equipment was. So what we had to do was unload and then bring it in. That's when we started driving through all these little towns. That's when there's two in a vehicle. You got the driver and you got the shotgun. Well, I went up to the shotgun, lock and load. Oh hell, I'm in a war. But we never got the convoys. I can almost imagine and say this that the enemy knew who we were. We were engineers. Dump trucks, all of our heavy equipment. Hell, we there to build the country, not tear the hell out of it.
Tear it down.
The infantry and the Air Force was the one that was tearing the hell out of the country, not us. Well, we were building it up.
They're to fix it.
Building roads and
roads
fixing
built.
shit. Yeah,
They knew that you were there to
I'm
help?
sure they knew we were there. None of the vehicles that we were in our convoys.
Throughout your tenure
were
there?
never, was never sniped at. But I can tell you ones that were. Those convoys that had the tanks, the APCs, those were guys.
Jason, when he was talking about the smell of
he said,
The smell of 1,000 Vietnamese hookers.
No, I didn't smell that till we got in town. No,
Oh man.
no, it was just you can go into some of these places where there's a lot of the Oriental restaurants and that kind of stuff. And it was that. And after a period of time, you can see where the odors were coming from because most of all these were country people. They had gobs and gobs of fish that they were drying.
Yeah.
They were baking their own bread. I mean, they were coming out of the ovens and all, and the kid cooked the fish heads and rice and all that stuff. Well, you've been in a place where you go into a mall and you get all these restaurants, you get all this smell.
The mall
come
always
together.
has like 4 or 5 Oriental restaurants in it. So
And
you get that real
it was kind of like that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of cute. Without Vietnamese hookers.
So-
No, that was only in the little villages in Saigon.
I actually had a question
go ahead.
about something that you were talking about earlier. Is talking about riding around in your convoys with the driver and you holding a shotgun. Did you ever see any people that was like, riding through these little towns and people were just looking at you like with you holding the shotgun and all, like just with crazy expressions or?
No, not really. They were just curious.
Just curious.
Yeah, rubberneckers. Hell, Vietnam had rubberneckers like we got over here in America.
The car accident. It's normal here with car. There, you got people with shotguns.
Well, the worst thing that ever happened to us while we were over there is we'd run over casings, spent casings, down flat tire, have a minor fender bender,
Yeah.
You run over a nail? No, it was a shell case.
It was. The hell, you pull in 30
Where'd you
calibers
learn to drive, Saigon?
But no, that was, for us, after I was there for a week or two, I felt kind of comfortable.
Yeah.
Like safe?
But not letting my guard down.
Yeah.
Because I was sitting there, and it wasn't a shotgun, by the way, it was an M14.
And that was at the beginning of the war?
Well, for him, the beginning.
It was the beginning, and of course, after I was there, and then we started going on small missions and stuff, I had to turn my M14 in, and they issued me a damn 45. A damn sidearm. That was my sidearm. However, what I carried probably produced more firepower than a damn dozen M14s.
So, you're there for your first week and, the nights are going by. How was it sleeping, and knowing... Because, we talked a little bit off air. We're going to get to the leisure time thing here in a second. I'm going to ask you a few questions about your time off. But, that sleeping in a country, where there are people who don't like you for no reason, And so you got to keep that guard up even when you're asleep. How hard was it getting used to, having to keep that gun close by? On the off chance that something you were called in, or somebody goes crazy and shows up at camp, how was that having your guard up on a 24-hour basis?
Well,
I'm gonna grab a Pepsi or a beer real quick. You go ahead and finish the question.
Well, the only thing there for a while, you sleep light. Any little noise, hell, you can hear a roach crawling across the wooden floor and wake you up, so to speak. But any little noise, even inside the secured compound, you could wake up, and then you'd be wide awake and alert. You'd be listening, and you'd find out it's something that some of our guys done.
It's a cricket,
Cricket.
Yeah.
But what woke us up the most was mortar fire. The gunships flying over had night missions. Usually, Puff the Magic Dragon, they'd have missions.
You say Puff the Magic Dragon?
That's what it was called, Puff the Magic Dragon.
No, what is that referring to? Exactly?
That is it's a helicopter, and they got miniguns stuck out both sides of it.
And y'all call it Puff the Magic Dragon.
I call it Puff the Magic Dragon.
Well, I mean, it's a problem solver.
And you can, they could, in every fifth round, these miniguns had 6 barrels, 7 barrels, or something like that. And every fifth round that come out of that barrel was a tracer. So it was like one long straight line, orange glow that come out from both sides. And it was like a
Okay.
and that would wake you up.
So that was probably annoying.
Yeah, it was. So hell, the aviation's at it tonight.
What are they shooting at? Infantry units? No, I think they just shot a deer.
But in the daytime, there was some military activity at nighttime. That was Charlie's time. Was nighttime. The daytime was busy time for everybody. Charlie wasn't that active
during the daytime.
During the daytime, I mean, he was, but he wasn't.
Well, that was their plan. I've read about this. They're very nocturnal as far as their fighting is concerned, trying to keep us, off our bases, fighting at night. I say us. I say the Americans. Not necessarily me, because I was way too young.
The U.S. Us.
Yes, the U.S. The us.
And I can actually say that sleeping. I can actually say that I had some good night's sleep every once in a while. Get a hold of some of that Ballantine beer that we could get 3.2. Hell, you'd have to drink 4 or 5 gallons of it. 4 or 5 gallons of it to get a good buzz, because it was only 3.2% alcohol.
Yeah.
But if you could get a hold of some good stuff, and you could, black market, don't get caught. Don't get caught buying that black
back
market
to those pokey cake machines. Don't get
pokey
caught.
bait. Don't get caught. You could wind up with some deep caca. But we could get hard liquor once in a while, and the beer that they furnished, that the Vietnamese furnished, was called Bom de Ba 33.
Bom de Ba 33.
It's called Bom de Ba 33.
It's the original name.
That's the original name.
How was it taste? Was it original too?
Beer. It just tastes like beer. Shit, beer's beer.
Did you get Rolling Rock by chance?
No.
I couldn't
No,
imagine.
the only beer we could get over there really through PX would be the Ballantine. However, the Australians were over there. Like there was 4 or 5 different countries involved, and the Australians were there. Now they had some beer.
Good beer?
Good beer. I don't know what the name of it was, but you drink 2 or 3 cans of that, and you'd be shit-faced. It was some strong beer.
So,
But anyway, going back to the nighttime and daytime, after you're there a while, you can sleep halfway decent. You're not really worried about being woke up. If you are, it's somebody coming and going in the tent. Usually it was lights out by 10. Most everybody was tired, and they were already in their bunks 8, 9 o'clock at night, and of course we only had one light bulb in the tent. So when it was lights out, it was lights out. We didn't have to turn it out. They shut it off at the damn generator.
well,
But we rested, and we got some decent sleep.
that's good too. Y'all needed it. But all work and no play. I mean, I know we talked a little bit about your leisure time, your off time during the war, and you said that a lot of it was riding home. You're riding home to your family and stuff, and because you were explaining to me, all the people you were riding, and a night would go by, you'd be finishing up by the morning. Well, how was that? Having to write all those letters. Were you repeating yourself in letters, or were you trying to keep them, original for each person? All 15. 30?
I pretty much kept them as original as I could, because the family members, as close as we were, they shared the letters.
Oh.
Well, he said that to me too. Well, they can understand. Most of the time, all of my letters went to my mother, because she's really the one that corresponded the most. I had a sister, and then of course my dad had a couple of sisters that did, and I had some cousins that were the same age as we did. So it was. I would ask them different questions. How was cousin Butch, or how was Aunt Susie, how was cousin Joanne, and how the different ones. And to Mama, it was like, how was Daddy, handling the farm, and things like that.
Does he miss me yet?
And does he miss me yet? Yeah, Daddy wish he was home helping him. But you could make a night go by real fast by writing 2 or 3 letters. And if you wasn't writing, you were reading.
Yeah.
I mean, you could read letters over and over again, and it was almost like I don't remember reading this, but yet I could read a letter 10, 15 times, and I could almost memorize it.
Yeah.
But yet there was a part that I don't remember reading this.
Yeah.
So, but our leisure time was sitting around chatting with the buddies, reading or writing. drinking a beer or two.
Y'all play any board games or cards?
We mostly it was card games. We played, spades, and we actually played penny poker.
Never played.
It wasn't with pennies. It was that APC currency. Because once you get over there, when you get paid, they pay you in cash, but they pay you in military pay currency. Like a quarter was a piece of paper.
That's weird.
It's a different colored paper. You have a green or a blue or a red. That was your pay.
Oh.
So
did they give you actual cash when you got back home, though?
You could transfer it. You'd have to go to the base's what they call it. It was a financial place because I had to pull guard duty there. And you could exchange the military pay currency back to American money. And if you was going on R&R, you would have to have that. Or if you was coming home, you'd need to cash all that back in. And it was dollar for dollar. So
okay, well, that's good. At least what the exchange.
Yeah,
was like.
Exchange was fine.
So leisure time. Now, how was mail call? Was it 'cause I think you said it was sort of.
It was daily, and we looked forward. Now, daily. As long as you was in the camp, if you was in the fire base, mail call was daily because the mail plane, unless it got shot down, which it never did, and we knew of. As long as that mail plane would come in, there would be mail for somebody in your company, and it was a company thing, not a platoon thing, because they had mail call at a specific time of the day, and you would go. Usually, it was after everybody was in camp, back in your area, and they'd call your name out, and sometimes you get one, and you get two, sometimes you get three or four, and sometimes you wouldn't get any, because even though the mail would have been sent to your APO, which is your number. It may take a day or two for it to catch up with you.
So was it like Christmas when you got those packages
man, you talking about that was.
Even if they were like clean socks and stuff like that, just whatever, it was like Christmas coming in.
It was like Christmas. Some of the guys, like myself, we get packages, and it probably wouldn't be no bigger than a shoebox, and it would be packed with whatever they could put in there. And mostly what I got from home, Mom would send sardines, potted meat.
Make sure you're eating good.
And
Make sure you're eating good.
That's sardines.
Kool-Aid in the packs. Well, actually, it was Kool-Aid in the bottles. You got the liquid Kool-Aid.
Yeah, I've seen
the little, looked like a little miniature whiskey bottle.
Yeah.
And there was we sell it in the store. The salami, it's already cooked and it's in the wrapper.
Like just
pepperoni.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mom would send me 2 or 3 of those, and it'd be just packed. I mean, you could. It'd be heavy, but you couldn't shake it. Nothing wouldn't rattle in there.
No air at all.
They would pack it full.
And that's, and everybody shared. I mean, time I got it, and I get back in. Most of the sharing was done with the guys in my squad, and we had like a 10 or 12 man squad tent, and we were close.
Make sure everybody got something.
And everybody, and of course you'd have a buddy outside, outside your platoon or outside your tent, and you always made sure, because the next package that come in may be you, and it may be something different, and you'd share it with me. Sometimes it'd be cookies.
Well.
And the mothers learned from us writing back, say, can you make them just a few minutes longer, make them a little bit harder? Because we don't care. It's a cookie from home. Because if they cook them at the normal bake time, by the time they got there, all the handling would be just a big old pile a box of crumbs, which was fine with us. It didn't matter.
And just licking it up, whatever.
And that's why when my wife bakes cookies at home, I have her to bake them a little extra longer, because I like them kind of starting to turn a little dark on the bottom.
Yeah.
And the guys did not care. They were like finger-licking chicken. And boy, they were. But no, and that's you get some real good closeness, and everybody shared. No, I didn't see anybody that would receive anything Didn't share, even bad news. If a guy got some bad news from home, he'd share.
Those had been some rough times.
Girlfriends, wives leave them. Somebody in the family passed away.
Dear John letters.
Oh,
yeah.
Because
Dear
the only thing you really had to confide in over there was the
Each
company
other.
of each other.
Each other or the pastor
Yeah.
or the chaplain. Well, to us it's
Us,
military, it's chaplain.
Yeah.
But that was few and far between. I really didn't get any bad news. I just didn't get any news. The girl that I was seeing in high school was my high school sweetheart. She kind of dumped me.
Oh.
I got one. It wasn't a Dear Jody letter or
Dear
John
John
letter.
It was
Damn,
a
the letters just quit coming. And she had started seeing a college boy
Oh, she
beat the draft by going to college, and then that's where it all started. Is us starting to get a bad rap. These college kids, they started all their marches and baby killers and all that crap.
We're definitely gonna talk about that in depth. There's a big question, that I wanted to ask you during your time there. I don't know if this happened during your time there or not, but you'll be able to tell me because you were there.
Yeah.
The Tet ceasefire, the night that usually that there would be nothing but a ceasefire because it was the Chinese New Year, the Vietnamese New Year. There was the Tet ceasefire where they launched a huge offensive, against y'all, and y'all weren't prepared. Were you there that night, or were you gone already by then?
Actually,
the
Tet offensive was in January. I think it was January, February of 1968. And I wasn't there. I was home.
Okay.
But they had all their stuff timed, and I even compared the Tet offensive to the 9/11.
Yeah.
As they had their stuff together, said, "All right, we're gonna hit here at this time."
They hit at the exact same time. I've watched
exact
a lot
same
of
time,
documentaries
and yes,
about that. They had been planning it for months, and the plan was Tet ceasefire. As far as the U.S. knew, there would be no fighting that night at all. And they used that to their advantage to hit, the rivers, to come into Saigon, knock them back, to show up at a lot of the bases and knock them out of the way, and do everything they could to an offensive, a large, mass offensive. And
No, fortunately, I wasn't there,
Thankfully.
or I didn't know anybody that was there that could talk about the Tet offensive. All I've ever seen is the documentaries that they show on
That's
TV.
good you weren't there. It was a really rough time.
because they hit them hard. So
They hit them hard, made them
I
quick.
was fortunate there.
Yeah,
Not
you were.
So,
it was rough, from what I gather.
The whole time that I was there, I can't say that even at the two fire bases that I was stationed at, sporadic mortar fire, maybe once, twice a week. Sometimes it'd skip for a week, but they always seem to know what to hit. And they hit ammo dump one time. I got some home video of where they hit our fuel depot.
Really?
I mean, we lost everything.
That had to been
You
an
talking
interesting
about
night,
black
yeah.
smoke? I mean,
Yeah.
it got all and all of our fuel was put in those bladders.
They
Those
must have
big
burned
bladders.
up.
I mean, it just. We had a mortar fire near us, and being in the engineers, we were stationed, or we had all of our company tents and platoon tents right next to our lumber yard where we kept all of our equipment of lumber and concrete mix and all. Apparently they overshot one night with their mortars and hit our section. Don't know of anybody in our outfit that was hit by the mortar. Just all the equipment and lumber. I mean,
A lot
splintered
of,
lumber and all kind of stuff.
A lot of great moments, to make it through. I mean, some rough times. Random mortar fire, stuff like that. And your entire, I guess, section or platoon was lucky enough to walk out of that unscathed. Y'all definitely had God with you, for sure, because that's insane. A lot of luck, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's rough.
But yeah, other than that, we survived. We survived any of the heavy stuff, unlike some of the infantry units that was out from us. You know, that'd be maybe a platoon strength or company strength, and
well, like you said, you know, with the engineers, you guys they really weren't. They were trying to inconvenience y'all more than anything else. Thankfully, it was just inconvenience. They were going after the infantry.
Well, they were seeing what we were doing to the country. We were actually putting down tar and
roads,
sprinkling gravel, because hell, not only was the local civilians using it, the military was using it. Guess what? Enemy was using it too.
Probably still there today.
Yeah, probably are.
So,
So,
you guys, cool if we take a break, a 2-song break? We're going to take a 2-song break real quick. After we come back from the break, we're going to talk a little about the environment globally that Mr. Larry was dealing with in Vietnam with the United States college boys and stuff, you know, doing marches and, you know, hating on them overseas and the people hating them there. We're going to talk about that when we get back. Keep it locked in here on Exit 92 Radio with the Big Bad Bear, DJ Hano, and Mr. Lur for Real American Live, our Real American Hero. And now it's time for Victory is Ours from Red Hot Rebellion.
the smell of 1,000 Vietnamese hookers.
We are live! That's right, the Big Bad Boo Bear, DJ Hans, and Mr. Lur are back here live on Exit 92 Radio. And we are talking to this Mr. American Hero, Mr. Lur. Now, you know, if you haven't been keeping up, if you're just tuning in here live with us, you know, we've talked a bit about, you know, Larry, who, of course, you know, who is a Vietnam veteran, who is a licensed pyrotechnician. And we mentioned that earlier, and I want to talk about that. Licensed pyrotech. How do you say it? Licensed pyrotechnic or?
Technician.
Technician, okay. So you're a licensed pyrotechnician, so that was part of your engineering job in Vietnam. And I know when we first talked about this, man, you know, you were like, yeah, I gotta go blow shit up, you know, for a living. I'm like, we definitely talk about that. So, what was it? Were you just like, were you clearing roads, or were you, you know, actually using it for any kind of conflict, or what was it?
Well, we were trained, going back to my training, handling explosives in the military.
Which were TNT, C4.
It started out as TNT.
Yeah.
Which is dynamite.
Dynamite.
And then we used what they call the det cord, which is it's an exploding piece of plastic cord, and plastic explosives, which they call C4.
Yeah.
And of course they call it other things now in the modern day. The training was, like I said, in Fort Leonard Wood, and then of course on to Fort Dix, New Jersey. The military doesn't call them pyrotechnicians. They call them blasters. That's what's on my DD-214 was a blaster.
Blaster.
B-L-A-S-T-E-R.
You got like this really cool thing here.
Yeah, blaster. I mean, what do you do? Sandblast stuff? No.
Blaster Lur.
No, you
it's like a Power Ranger over here.
No, but to go along now, that's how it's listed on my separation. DD-214 military papers, and but the MOS was 12B-20, which is demolition specialist.
Okay.
And if I'd have went on and got if I'd have stayed another 6 months, I could have been up for promotion, which would have been E5, which is a specialist 5th class. Then it would have went to 12B-30. I'd still be in that class of 12B-20, which is blaster.
Jason says Han Solo had a blaster.
Yeah. Different kind of blaster. But no, we had the detonator. You had 3 people. There was 3 people in your demolition team. You had one that carried the detonator, which was me.
Yeah.
Then you had the guy that carried the blasting caps. And then you had another, here I'm calling them guys, another GI that actually carried the explosive itself. And he would carry the C4 and the det cord.
Wow.
Okay. None of those 3 could have
All three of them.
All three components
And had to be separated.
had to be separated.
Just in case.
Yeah.
I'm sure glad I didn't have a problem with static electricity because it didn't take much of an amp to set off a blasting cap.
Did y'all have any accidents? You know, where one almost went off, any like grenades being pulled on accident or anything like that?
Well, there was a purpose accident that happened in one of our headquarters tents where somebody, I don't know if they were drunk or it was just revenge or just what happened. But one of the guys in the headquarters tent was a cook. Somebody fragged them. They threw in a fragmentation hand grenade.
Oh, God.
Didn't kill anybody. How? But it sent half of them home. Because the guy that was my buddy in North Miami Beach had 2 pieces of shrapnel they had to take out of his neck and throat.
So was it like a crime? Like he did it on purpose, assaulting?
They
them,
never. It was. They whoever done it meant to do it.
Okay. He was just an asshole.
We didn't. It was never. Of course, it was turned over to the provost marshal, which is MPs.
Yeah.
They never really found out who done it because that's hard. It's almost like arson. It's hard to prove. No fingerprints.
Yeah.
Nobody. There was no witnesses. Somebody just walked by and pulled the pin and threw it in the headquarters tent and bam.
Douchebags.
Yeah. I know of nobody shooting one another. I mean, there was some cutting, fighting going on. But other than that, I may be talking ahead of maybe what you want to ask, but the only people that we ever lost while I was there in Vietnam in our outfit, in our company, were three of our guys, and I didn't know them that well because they were in another platoon.
Mm-hmm.
Died in a hotel fire while I was on R&R.
A hotel fire on R&R.
While they were on R&R. Died of smoke inhalation.
Damn.
But it was just one of those motels that didn't have no kind of alarm systems.
Was this? Oh no! You say R&R? Were they out of country?
They were out of country. They were still in. Well, let's see. No, wherever Taipei is, it was one of our R&R places.
So they weren't
Hawaii
back in the United States.
Japan. No. It was kind of freak. Mm-hmm. Them dying while being out of country, getting some rest and relaxation from the war zone, and then they died in a hotel fire. We had some that was wounded from friendly fire. Believe it or not. Apparently, somebody called in some wrong artillery coordinates.
Oh, I've heard about that happening before.
Yes, yeah. I'm an eyewitness to that. We were shelled by some high explosive. Don't know if it was a 105 or 175 or 155 millimeter howitzers, but somebody either overdone or underdone, and we had a sergeant that was in our platoon while he was dying. It was just as he dove under one of our trucks while we were out in the field or out on an operation. A fragment of the arrow burst hit him in the leg and severed his leg, so he lost his leg. And then there was a few that had some shrapnel. But other than that, that was the only friendly fire. And then, of course, like the 3 deaths. Freak accidents that, you'd have to go to the doctor and get stitched back up or heal back up. If it was serious enough, they'd send you home. But I don't. He was the only one, other than the ones that was in the headquarters tent that was wounded from the shrapnel from the hand grenade. They were sent home. But other than that, there was none in our outfit. And when I say outfit, there was six companies in our battalion, and the base that I was on had Alpha Company, which was the company I was in, and Headquarters Company, that was connected to us. Don't know of anybody else that was sent home for any other reason other than having to. It was time for them to go home, or the one that were wounded. Nobody in our outfit was shot, friendly fire or enemy fire.
So, you've been there, and Benny said that Taipei is in China.
China, okay.
So you've been there for a good while, a couple of months, out of your 11 months?
12.
12 months.
Actually, mine was 13 because they included that 28 days of travel.
Okay, 28
So mine was actually a 13-month
13-month
tour.
There we go. 13-month tour. You're in 13 months. You're probably in a good minute, and then you begin to hear the rumblings and the rumors stateside from, what all these people are marching. They're calling you guys baby killers. And, they're saying all these very nasty, they're attacking people who are coming home from injuries or just into tours, whichever. How did that make you feel? That not only were you having to deal with Charlie, who hates you because you're American, and then the people there who you're just trying to help, they hate you anyways. And now you got your own people that, you're fighting for. There's a good percentage. There was like 70% of the country at the time were hating on the Vietnam, veterans, Vietnam guys who were over there. What was the first, thoughts coming to your head when you first hear these rumblings over the radio or just from letters or, whatever?
Well, most of us felt, here we are drafted. There was a few of them that were there that were World War II vets, that were battlefield commission officers. Most of them took their decommission and they were actually platoon sergeants and platoon leaders. They talked to us about what was going on back in America. Most of it was the draft dodgers and college kids. Mm-hmm. I don't have anything against the college kids, but I did about the college, the ones that burnt their draft cards and went to Canada and all that crap. They were telling us that the World War II vets, which they were themselves, they come home to ticker tape parades and, they were welcomed home and that kind of stuff when they come home. And there was, and I didn't see it firsthand, but there was rumors that they were actually throwing stuff and spitting on some of our guys that were coming home at airports.
Yeah. So
that kind of gave me a mindset: is do I want to come home on an airplane? Do I want to fly into an airport? Well, when my tour of duty was up, they flew us from Vietnam all the way to McGuire Air Force Base, which is military base.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nobody there on the military air base to do that crap. But then, if we had flown into a
civilian airport.
Yeah, civilian airport, we were expected. But they had told us, don't worry about it. But if we flew out of a public airport, to expect it. So with that in mind, I said, well, when it come time for me to come home, I boarded a train, a passenger train, and rode it all the way home.
On train.
I didn't see none of that, didn't hear none of that while I was on the train, and I had a few welcome home, and how was it over there and all that crap. Well, to me it was, I just did my tour of duty, did what I was told to do, and didn't volunteer for anything, and I just come home. But the question I was really never asked about the baby killings and all that kind of stuff, and I'm almost sure that it went on. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you the case of he got caught. It was like the Lieutenant Calley. I won't get into that, but that My Lai massacre that was on the news. Of course, they later on made a movie about it. But really, to me, he was a guinea pig for the military, and I'm sure those infantry units did a lot of that.
Yeah.
With the engineer units, and we didn't. We didn't do anything like that I'm aware of.
Yeah, it's just it's just I've always said this, and I've talked about, for any of you guys out there listening that listen constantly, I've brought up different wars like Nam and all that. And my current stance with all that is, I may not agree with how the government does things and how they start wars and they send you guys over there to have to finish them. The fact is, you guys go over there and y'all bust your asses, and you got more balls than I do. So, any of y'all, any veteran from all the way to World War I to Iraq, they all deserve a handshake and a welcome home when they walk off that plane. And it was sad to hear, you guys had such a problem with your own people. And something I wanted to, because I was just thinking about it, because I was reading a short article on it the other day. So I know that during the occupation, y'all weren't just working as the United States, but y'all were working with what? Y'all were working with South Korea or working with North Korea?
We had, definitely wasn't North Korea.
They're
still our enemy.
I can never remember.
But no, it was South Korea. We were over there. We had, at Fuloi, we had the South Korean. There was a South Korean army, and of course the United States Army was there. Mm-hmm. And of course Bearcat, which I went to the next 6 months because we had to build an airfield for some planes. And the other country that was with us, I believe, at Bearcat was the Australian Army. Now, them from hellacious fighters and some beer drinkers, let me tell you. But that's the only two countries that I was aware of at the time.
How was it fighting side by side with the South Koreans? Were they grateful? That you guys were trying to give him a hand. Because I've heard. When I read this article, the guy who wrote it, he wasn't in Nam, but he had a friend who was. He went through this. He had a very bad experience with the South Korean army working with them against North Korea. I was just wondering if you had worked personally at all with any South Koreans, and if the language barrier was a problem or the cultural differences.
Well, yes and no. I only knew of a small South Korean unit that was on Fuloi with us. They worked along with the infantry, which was the Big Red One. They worked under the Big Red One. So they kind of did their operations and stuff together. They, as far as working with the combat engineers, no. One thing that we did hear from some of the others, from the Big Red One infantry people, that the South Koreans did not take prisoners.
Yeah, I've heard that.
That's a clue. Even though they're Oriental people, they didn't like the way they treated Americans, especially POW.
Yeah.
Or somebody that was not actually, well, the POWs, but then the ones that were killed in the field, because they had, we'd heard some wild stories about how the VC would dismember our boys and leave them on trails, and on trails that were traveled a lot.
Trying to play mind games.
Yeah. And which kind of worked some. Some of the infantry guys went squirrely. But we didn't see. Personally, I didn't see any of that.
Yeah.
But I do know a fact that there was the Korean unit on our base. We also had a POW camp on our base.
Really?
Inside of our big fire base.
And you really didn't see too much of that, did you?
No, because we weren't. The only time we were allowed in that area is if we had to bring in, say, some field dirt or needed some heavy equipment in there to do some work or help put up some fencing or something like that, expand the POW camp. That was the only time we were allowed in that area because it was heavily guarded. I mean, it was almost like going to the prison out at Stark at Rayford.
Yeah, the DJ Ray.
Because there was a fence, and then you had a barrier, and then you had more fences, and razor wire and all kinds of stuff. And you definitely don't be caught with a camera. You could see it with your eyes, but we could not take any photographs from a POW.
What did Benny say there?
Benny wants to know, how do you feel about the Vietnamese? Because I know some people that still outright hate them even after the war.
Well, I don't. That was something that, coming from a Christian family, is there's no such word as hate for us. Just didn't like the way we were treated by them. Now, there was a lot of Vietnamese people that were good people.
Yeah.
I
Just
mean,
like
there were
anywhere.
people we could trust. But then there were some that,
The extremists.
that you couldn't trust. Like
Just
even
like
right
today.
here in America. Right here, even in our community we live, there's people that will talk good to you and want to give you your shirt off their back, but the time you turn, they'll stab you in the back with the shirt that they just give you. What gets me is our government could have negotiated a lot better than they did. To be honest with you, I don't think there was much negotiating going on, because after the war, and you don't have to take my word for it, but you can go to anywhere now and you can buy products that come from Vietnam. Like at our store. I sell seafood that comes from Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I buy furniture. Badcock and more. They build some pretty furniture. Guess where it comes from? Vietnam. Why the hell couldn't we have done that in the 60s when we was over there tearing the hell out of the country? Blowing down their trees that they was making furniture with. and they're really crafty. And I just don't understand.
So needless to say, you went over there, you did your job. It wasn't, of course you didn't like the way your boys that you were working with and yourself got treated by the enemy, but that's what they were. They were the enemy. But after the war, it was end of it. They were no longer the enemy. Which I can understand that. A lot of people got trapped, in that mindset that, they lost their legs and it was all their fault. And it was to an extent, but I mean, you can't go on hating an entire, race of people for that.
And I really didn't. The thing of it is, I didn't hate my enemy.
Mm-hmm.
I did not hate my enemy at all. It just didn't. Hate wasn't. It just wasn't a word in my vocabulary. Way I was brought up.
I guess it was a good thing that you got put in like non-violent,
non-infantry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
We were speaking about the baby killing and all that stuff, and then I didn't and don't ponder on it much, because there's a possibility that I could have been killing babies and mothers and innocent people, is blowing tunnels and caves.
Yeah.
But that was few and far between. The infantry would be on our support, would be on operation. They'd find a bunker network. They'd find where there might be some caves, or where there were actual caves in some of the hills and mountains, and we'd go in and set charges and blow these things up. Were there people in these these caves and tunnels? Don't know.
Just gotta hope they weren't.
Just hope they wasn't. Went in there and blew hell out of everything, and
that way nobody could hide them.
Shoot, a week or two, it'd be back like it was.
Yeah.
I mean, like the Japanese in World War II. I mean, you could blow up a tunnel or something like that, and a few days later, it'd be back up again.
Yeah, the Japanese and Vietnamese. I've read a lot about World War II, and they would build spider holes. Just
everywhere.
like Vietnamese did years later. You'd have guys walking down trails, with their guns full platoons, traveling down the trail, and they'd come out the spider hole and spray, with whatever weapon they had, and take anything with them that they could, even themselves sometimes, grenades, whatever they would just. It was the same. Those guys, when they wanted to win something, they come at you with a stick, they come at you with a rock. If they're out of bullets, they're going to hit you with their gun if they have to.
I have some to ask me about. Did I have any fears of being over in the combat zone? Sure. I don't know of a GI that's in a combat zone, whether he's in the rear area or forward or just wherever he is. Yes, there is some fear. And my biggest fear, other than snakes, they call them bamboo vipers over there,
Hate snakes.
was becoming a POW. That's the only fear that I had. And for years and years and years, I'd wake up from a dream that I was running, and felt like I was just give out of breath. But that was probably my biggest fear. I was more fearful about becoming a POW than I was being shot.
You know, because the POWs, and once again, this is all from just reading, as a kid, what they would do to the prisoners was barbaric. I mean, it really was. The water tortures, the waterboarding, starvation. It was terrible. I mean, wasn't McCain a Vietnamese?
He was what, shot down? He was a pilot and was shot down.
He was a prisoner, I think, for a while.
5 or 6 years, something like that.
And that's how it would go. They would keep you alive. That's the crazy part. They didn't kill you. They kept you alive 5, 6, 10 years,
And then being a POW, and then probably the next fear was like the snakes, because they call them 2 steps. I don't know how poisonous they were, but it was kind of like our coral snake, it bites you, that gets the nervous system, and then you die. I wasn't worried too much. Wasn't worried too much about being shot at, because all the convoys I was ever in, none of our vehicles had not the first bullet hole in them. We wasn't sniped at. Probably my next kind of concern and fear was mines.
Yeah.
Because if I wasn't blowing up something, we'd go out on another detail and we'd minesweep.
What did Jay say there?
He said those Vietnamese hookers changed his mind. I'm not sure what that's referring to, though.
About something. The Vietnamese hookers out there.
But was minesweeping, and we looked for personnel mines and anti-tank vehicle mines. I can honestly say that no fellow GI or no civilians was ever harmed in any kind of way for something I did or didn't do.
That's good.
And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of
I would be
that.
too. I mean,
It was,
that looking for mines thing, that reminds me as a kid, my grandpa would always tell me when you're walking, you always got to keep, looking ahead and make sure you watch the ground as well. Ours was just, we lived out in the country there, right out of the loam and stuff, and with snakes everywhere.
Yeah.
But, so, you're in the Army for 13 months, an engineer. You dealt with some small conflicts every so often, a mortar fire and all this. Getting back, you had that big problem with the marchers and the hippies, in the 70s.
Yeah.
And, or still the mid-60s, early 70s. What was your first real thought coming back home? After you've been done with this, the war's not over, but you're done. You're home. What was your first thought? Finally getting back to American soil. Home permanently. Did you have any R&R before you came home? And
as a matter of fact, I did.
You did.
And it was in Hawaii.
It was in Hawaii, so you didn't get to go back home. You got to go.
No, because that's as far as home as we could get.
Okay.
To American soil as we could get.
13 months. You haven't seen Florida in 13 months then.
Actually, it was about 15, 16 months.
15, 16 months?
Yes.
You ain't seen Florida in 15, 16 months.
I ain't seen home. I've heard from home.
Yes, all you can do is hear and read and maybe see pictures if they
That's
send
exactly
you
right.
So what was your first thought walking back to that farm, with your mom and daddy? You're a grown man, you've seen things, What was your first thought coming back home? And then I'm sure you probably still seen protests and stuff for years afterwards until it was finally over. But, was it like a rush, of happiness or anything like that?
Just getting home to see my mama.
Yeah.
And then getting some of her good cooking.
That would have been my first thought too, I have to say.
And then, of course, the family.
Yeah.
But I took one of the first things that was did for me or done for me, did for me, done for me. English ain't too good. Was I get off the train there and start. I had to switch trains up north in Pennsylvania at Grand Central Station. So I know what Grand Central Station looked like. And I picked up, it wasn't Orange Blossom Special, but it was one of what they call a local.
Yeah.
Of course, they had the Silver Meteor then, where it only stopped like one or two towns. But if you got on a local, it stopped in every day after hoot and holler between here and yonder. And I rode it from Pennsylvania all the way to Stark, and it let some guys off, in between there and there, and there was still some going on south, and I didn't know them. We just sat there and chatted, talked about what we did, and that kind of stuff. But I got off the station and had my AWOL bag, because we had to turn in everything that we had, and was issued new uniforms.
I was going to ask you, did you bring anything home from Nam?
I sent, most of all my stuff was packaged and sent home, that we could send home. And it had to be censored.
Okay.
Like all of my pictures and slides, I didn't get all my pictures and slides back.
Oh, really?
They were censored, yeah.
I know a lot of people would send like helmets, and stuff like that.
I sent some parachutes home. I sent a North Vietnamese flag home. I sent a bunch of stuff home that you could send home.
Yeah, that you're allowed.
Couldn't send weapons, anything like that.
Of course not.
The only weapons that you could send back home is the weapons you took with you. You could actually take your own.
Really?
Yes, you sure could.
I
You
did
could
not
take
know
a
that.
shotgun. It had to be registered.
Did you take anything with you?
No.
Okay.
Uncle Sam's gonna furnish me mine. I ain't taking
I ain't about to risk my stuff.
because I'm afraid the only one I'd been able to take was my grandpappy's old .22 rifle, and all I'd have been able to do was shoot monkeys or something like that out of trees with it. But I couldn't have done anything else with a .22. But if you took it over, and it was of course it had to go through the provost marshal, and if it was brought there and it was registered like you register a gun here, that same weapon that you registered better have the same number on it, and then you could mail it back. But war collectibles, I mean, some of the guys wanted to send home some stuff, and they wouldn't do it. But anyway, one of the first good things that was done when I got home was when I got off the train, I called Aldridge Taxi Cab Company there in Stark, and they took me home. Didn't charge me a dime.
That was nice though. Very
And
nice
since
though.
then, I've had I've only been wearing my Vietnam veteran. This is a shame. This is a sad shame. I've only been wearing Vietnam veteran caps for the past 2 years, and this month I'll celebrate my 50th year stepping on foreign soil.
50 years.
50 years. Now, what does that tell you about a Vietnam veteran? If I've only been wearing this cap for the past 2 years, was I ashamed? Was I not proud of my country? Or some of the people? No. But, of my generation, the only ones that I get handshakes from is fellow veterans. Oh, forgive me.
Oh, you're fine, Mr. Larry. You're fine.
It is a younger generation. 2 years ago, and I won't ever forget it. 2 years ago, of course I've been going longer than that, but 2 years ago when I started wearing this, I first wore it to my daughters in Myrtle Beach. And I was shopping in Walmart, and I had 2 young high school kids, because they were wearing their shirts. Thank me.
You deserve to thank
for my service.
You do deserve to be thanked.
You know, you guys, anybody, you know, and I've already said it once in the show. You guys and everybody who goes over there has had some of the worst experiences, nightmares. You know, y'all put up with some stuff that people like me and Hano here may not have ever been able to handle. And because of y'all making that sacrifice and going over there, we're still able to do this. You know, we're still able to put this broadcast together and say what we want to say and do what we want to do. And because of that sacrifice you guys made, you know, that's why we have our freedoms to let you do. I don't think you should, you know, feel ashamed about your hat. You know,
I don't. I just, you
had
to be
a rough
honest with
generation.
you, I didn't want
Very rough.
I didn't want people to know that I was even over there for the longest. And the only views that I ever shared is like with the guys in the VFW post and other veterans, you know, and that kind of thing. What did you do? Where were you?
You guys had a rough occupation, man. And it was more, honestly, you know, it was worse coming home for y'all than it was over there. People were, you know, I've read reports of people getting beat, people getting hurt years after the war's over there. You know, they find out you're a Vietnam vet, you lose your job, so they don't want to have anything to do with you. You know, people were hurting, you know, your boys, you know, that were over there with you for no other reason than they were over and on. So yeah, I would be a little ashamed of the generation that I came out of if they were treating people like myself, you know, who had made sacrifices upon sacrifices, 15 months away from home.
Yeah.
You know, I don't blame you at all. You know, and you should never feel bad about it either. And it is a shame that people from your generation that didn't go over there they see your hat, they don't walk over and shake your hand and say, you know, thank you. Because if anybody deserves it, people like yourself,
Thank you,
and your buddies, they all deserve a thank you.
Thank you for going over
More
there
than-
so we didn't have to.
For real. You know.
Well, we were over there with the mindset of we were supposed to stop communist aggression. Because when I was in high school, it was mandatory for us to take the course of the class, and they give you a little book about yay thick. It was called Americanism versus Communism. And reading that, at first I didn't understand, but you know how America's beliefs and what their freedoms stood for, and how we fought for it in the past wars, and then how communism was like a slow-eating cancer, and you know, just taking over different parts of the world.
Christy said something. Oh, okay, she's talking to Benny or JP. Good to see you there, JP. That's another friend of ours from Canada. JP, good to see you in the chat room. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay. It was like a slow cancer, and that's why I thought we were over there was to put a stop to that. Regardless of what I'd done, what little I contributed. To me, the only contribution that I see now was we actually helped local people. It would be like me helping you buy $100 worth of groceries in the store.
Yeah.
Not that I wouldn't continue to help you, but seeing that.
We got JP in the chat room flirting with Christy.
But with over 58,000 that died over there, and the 2,000 plus MIAs, now I see it wasn't worth it.
Going over there wasn't worth it.
Because really the only thing that we really done was help the local people. That's all. It's almost like we didn't. I have to say the government, because I was part of the government, didn't do anything to stop it. Look what happened. We had to pull out, 72, 73?
Yeah.
And they still come on in there and took over because it was...
Well, as soon as, they pulled out, there was nothing.
No.
The South Vietnamese army was nothing to stand up against the Northern Vietnamese Army. That's why we got involved in the first place. And I mean, you know, it was a rough time.
It was waste. I mean, it was
to go over there for that long and then just pull out.
Because we stayed and we stayed and we stayed, and our guys were dying. We were staying, we were dying. And we heard all this talk about the Paris peace talks. I mean, that's all they were saying, and of course the government controls the media anyway, as far as I know.
Well,
They'll be shutting you down here shortly. No, just kidding.
They're listening, Dan.
But it's... They could have negotiated this thing. We could have said, all right, look, let's draw the parallel line like they did in North and South Korea. We pull out, leave a few troops there just for security's sake. Come home. Look what we're doing now. We're trading with them. Yeah. Like we said earlier.
Yeah.
You can buy furniture made in Vietnam.
Everything.
And in our store. You can buy fish and shrimp from Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia. So why couldn't they have done that to start with?
Man, it's all about at the time how much money they're going to make. They may not have made as much money as they be making now. It's all about time and money. They don't, they don't care about people like you, or people like us, they just don't.
But anyway, coming home, after that was done, I thought that was a good gesture for the Aldridge Taxi Company. Yeah. And if there's anybody out there from Aldridge Taxi Company, thank you. It was only like a 2 or 3 mile ride, and that was pocket change back then.
It's still, regardless, it was still a nice gesture.
Yeah. Took me home, dropped me off. Actually, I didn't go home. I went to my daddy's oldest sister, and I went there and knocked on the door, and of course, you're home. I didn't tell nobody I was coming home.
Oh, wow.
You talking about a shock.
Yeah.
What happens? Telephone. There was no texting or no cell phone. Just get on the telephone and dial some numbers. He's back, and shoot, I guarantee you in 30 minutes, everybody, all my family members knew I was home, because this one was calling that one, that one was calling this. So my daddy's older sister took me home, and I thought Mama was gonna whip me. Here I'm 20 years old. I thought she was gonna whip me, but yeah, that was a good feeling being home. I was exempt from guard duty, so I didn't have to pull any guard duty.
Jay says it's just like fighting in Iraq and buying gas from them at the same time. Yeah, that's a great analogy. Way to do it.
Exactly. He's right there. And but then I got settled in my civilian life, and of course that's when I started doing this, doing that, and first one to that. What kind of career did I want to get into? And
Did you think about getting into construction or demolition? I mean, because of your extensive background in the military, I'd have figured that would be a.
Well, I had thought about one time, maybe getting going to work with the state of Florida and getting on a road crew, building, operating a grader. Of course, I still hadn't mastered the road grader, but I could bulldoze and operate a front end loader and a dump truck.
Yeah, you had all that experience.
I had my military license. Of course, it's like now with your Class A CDLs, you have to take all this training with endorsements, and that's exactly what my military license looked like, with all this different equipment that I could operate.
And now is that like ongoing, or do you got to get it renewed every so often?
What was that, military license?
Your licenses for the
as long as you was in the military, it was a one-time shot, and then as you progressed and trained and learned, then it was added, and they would actually give you another copy. You turned in the
Shannon in the chat room there says, "Thank you, Mr. Larry. You are a great man."
Well, you're welcome.
that is Shannon from the store.
Yeah. But
that's a big statement from Miss Shannon.
But I did a number of jobs when I was getting back into civilian life. trained to be as a welder. I did some welding. Of course, I still help my dad on the farm.
Do everything, you know?
I did some welding.
Yeah.
And the steel trusses that's in buildings in Jacksonville,
Okay.
warehouses and stuff, I built. Then I went on with another company building specialty stuff, like working with aluminum, welding aluminum handrails and stuff like that. Then I went to work with the railroad, doing some railroading.
Oh, railroad work.
Yeah. It was all clerical. Sitting behind a desk.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, making good money with the railroad. Back then.
Working
Yeah.
in that AC instead of out there.
Instead out there pulling the levers, working with the DOT, operating heavy equipment. But then I worked with that a while, and then I made a career change.
Yeah.
I went to work with the Forestry Service.
You spent quite a number of years out there.
30 years I got in there, and
Are you still with the forestry at all?
I'm retired after
you're
30
retired.
years.
30 years.
I had a business at one time. Did photography work. And
Did
then
you really? I didn't know that.
You did photography work?
had
That's
a license
pretty
to
cool.
operate right here in the county and in the town.
Wow.
Nice.
I did not know that.
What kind of did you do?
do
Like
like-
town events and stuff, or?
Did town events. The first as a professional photographer, I got in when Hilliard celebrated his centennial, 100 years.
Yeah.
I bought me some equipment and set up and did old-timey photography for people to dress up. I mean,
Oh,
during-
wait. Yeah, I know. I did that as a kid. Yeah.
Yeah, did and I set up at the fairgrounds and had costumes and had a backdrop and did old timey
nice.
photography. Yeah,
I didn't
made
know
it
that.
look just like you was back 100 years ago, back in the old West. But most of mine was that type. I didn't do any of the Bonnie and Clyde kind of stuff. It was all the Wells Fargo kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know?
that's pretty cool. I did not know you were a photographer.
Yeah, I
You
did
still-
weddings and did all kinds
You
of
still have
stuff.
a camera and all that? You still do it all for like maybe like family events?
Shoot, I bet you I hadn't taken 100 pictures in the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, you remember earlier he was telling us about the slides and the.
Yeah, he was
you know-
telling us about all that. Yeah, that's right. Your pictures from over there and even here still too.
Yeah, I did weddings. That was probably the hardest photography to do.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Weddings.
That's a pain.
And you had to spend so many hours. But I did that. I enjoyed it. I also went to college, junior college, and become an EMT. Volunteered with our local fire station.
So you're just like a superhero or something.
I don't know. Worked my way up from nothing to the fire chief.
Wow.
And
You were the fire chief too.
I was a fire chief.
Nassau County.
For the fire station here.
For
In
Hilliard.
Yeah.
For Hilliard.
And I was fire chief for 5 years, and was an EMT. We had a lease contract agreement with the county
That's
to run
really
basic
cool.
life support.
Yeah.
And then when all the units in the county went advanced life support, that's with the clear. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
yes, Mr. Larry. We know.
But
Clear.
when they had the defibrillators and they was able to shoot drugs and IVs and that kind of stuff, then I wound up working part time with the county.
Oh, really?
So I hired on as an EMT driver. And yes, I have helped deliver babies.
Brought a bunch of babies in this life, huh?
Help stop knife wounds and car wounds with car crashes and you know, from everything. Scissors being stuck in the stomach,
Oh, man.
just one thing after another. But some people say, yeah, you're a jack of all trades and a master of none. I said, well, no, not really. I just I'm what's that guy that used to George Plimpton?
I don't know.
He was that guy that could do anything or everything.
MacGyver.
I know MacGyver could take a pocket knife and a toothpick and go in the jungle and build a shopping mall
Probably
for the women.
Well, Shannon says so.
Shannon says, Jacob and Princess.
Which is my nickname at work.
Thanks for putting Mr. Larry on. He's a real badass.
He's a real badass.
Man, I tell you what, I possess skills,
A particular set of skills.
particular set of skills, and knowledge that only certain men think about.
So, Mr. Larry, you were born on a farm, here in Florida. You went and you fought in Vietnam for United States, and you know, you did all these great things. You've been a fire chief, photographer, and now you know you've done all these wonderful things. You're still doing great things. You work with us at our store, which we, you know, we're not going to mention the name of.
Larry the seafood guy.
Larry the seafood guy. How did it come to end up working where you are now? Which we don't want to mention, you know, the name of.
Oh, we're not promoting.
No, I don't.
Well, it started out that I had some children that was in school.
Christy says you have a way with the women.
Oh, I do? Well, thank you. I didn't know that.
He's a pimp, guys.
That's why we can't get no work.
They call me Pimp Daddy Lar.
Pimp Daddy Lar. I like that.
No, damn, I done lost my train of thought.
Okay.
It started out. I had I had one son that was already out of high school. He done graduated, and I had a daughter that was in high school, and another son that was just started in elementary school, or he was in grade school or something. It's been so long ago, I almost forgot. So she was getting ready to graduate, and she was wanting to go to college, become a pharmacist. So, oh boy, here we go. All right. So that's when I applied at our store and become a photo lab technician. Well, I already had photo experience, but I just didn't have.
And they used to have to do the pictures, you know.
Man, I could get in there with the best of them, and you know, do the chemicals, and you know, have to do all the tests and all that stuff. And pretty soon I got fairly decent at it and could make some good pictures for customers. So what I was doing was, with the income that I was making with the company, as I was helping my daughter get through college. Mm-hmm. So when I said, well, I'll work until you graduate, and if you don't graduate, I'm going to quit. Well, I got in and got established, and then of course retirement come, and then I retired, then I promoted to photo lab manager, and I was still working. She hadn't quite finished college. She was getting ready to graduate. So I said, when you graduate, I'm leaving. Well, here she graduated in 2004, 2005. Here it is, 2016, and I'm still there. But when the photo lab went away, it wasn't because of our company. It was because the other company, they went out. Mm-hmm. Moved into grocery, and then from grocery I went to cashier and then bagging. And then from there I said, I've had enough. And they said, no, we got a position back here. Do you want it? I'll try it a day or two.
And so you became
I become the captain.
You become captain
of the SS.
Captain
Larry the seafood guy. He used to have this announcement that he would say over the intercom all the time.
He says every day he's going to retire. I'm going to retire today, damn it.
I had enough. I'm retired.
This place, when I retire, this place is going to go straight to hell.
I'm going to go on this vacation. I might not come back.
Yeah. 9 days later, I'm back.
So, we're about to... Oh, we got people in the chat room. You're welcome. Christine. I know that's... Okay. That's JP talking to Christy and Shannon. Okay.
You ain't going to get nowhere fast with Christy and Shannon, JP.
No, I've settled in, and of course I retired, and I'm still work.
Yeah.
Enjoy life best I can, and of course I see my daddy when he retired from work. He give up.
Yeah.
You don't give up. Give out. Don't give up.
Don't give up.
That was his motto to us kids.
Don't give up. Give out.
Give out.
Yeah.
And he didn't live by his words. Passed away at age 54 because he just give out.
Yeah.
Or no, give up.
Give up.
But
that happens to the best of them, though, man. It does. It's unfortunate.
Well, one of the things I had thought about doing, and there's 2 or 3 in our family that's nurses. I had a first cousins in radiology, but my dad wanted me to become a medical doctor. Just a general medical doctor.
Yeah, I can see you as a doctor. I really could.
Well, he never got to see it, but I made it as far as entering to the paramedic program, which would have been in Lake City. But with my job with Forestry Service, having fires and and they'd send me here, and I'd be here for 3 weeks, and I'd have missed so much school that I couldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Because I was going to get my feet wet, get in the paramedic program and try it. And then I went on into the college to try to become a medical doctor, but it didn't work that way. Didn't work out.
I worked.
But the rest of everything that's happened since then is...
Shannon says you need some hours putting up cheese.
No.
No, I got too much to do in seafood.
But so all these great things you've done over the years, all the things you fought for your country, and you've worked in all these different jobs, and like you said, you're a jack of all trades. Because we're about to call it a night here. If somebody my age or younger walked up to you and asked you if it's a good idea to join the military in a major scrimmage like Vietnam or Iraq or anything like that, would you tell them to try it or to maybe stay away from it? Or with all the stuff that you went through, would you go back? This is the second part of the question.
And also keep in mind before you answer that question, all the recent events that's happened with the military and just everything that's going on and just all the way that the government is and the media and how they're covering all these
tell
stories.
Them to stay away? And do you regret any of your time in the military?
No, I don't.
You don't regret any of your
I
time?
do not, and to be honest with you, if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change too much of my life, some parts of my life, but yes, I'd do it all over again. I really would. I've got 2 sons that were at military age. They had to register as all 18-year-olds.
Yeah, everybody's registered.
And now I got 2 grandsons. And we don't know what's going to hold for the grandsons. Now my sons have already exceeded the age of eligibility in the military. Military. But I told them, I said, can't tell you what to do. I said, you only know what your dad's done. I says, I can only suggest and tell you my experience and how it was for me. I wasn't married, didn't have any kids while I was there. I was just a single guy with a high school sweetheart, which left me. Because of it, yeah. But you'd have to pray about it. You'd have to search yourself and ask God's guidance on whether to go or not to go. However, I would tell you that a minimum of 2 years would be a good experience for you. Because you can grow. I said you can mature. You mature. You can do a lot of things. There's different things in the military that you can do.
Besides you're a living image of that because you didn't have to see very much conflict at all, if any. You were an engineer. And you go into the military, and hell, you look at you now, working. You still do stuff for the forestry, even though you're retired. You're doing the fireworks.
I can give advice. Well, I don't. I haven't shot fireworks in a number of years.
Oh, okay. I thought you'd done it recently.
No, I took my fireworks training from a fellow that was from a large fireworks company that actually shot fireworks. I believe at SeaWorld. The ones that they put on the shows, those kind, like the ones we have out at the air park. Liability got to get too great. Was limited with space, and you got to have a lot of space to shoot
stuff up, don't get blown up.
Okay. I had decided to not do it anymore. Now I can buy a few fireworks and shoot them around the house. I go up to South Carolina and buy mine because you get some better stuff there. But I don't do that anymore.
Christy says she wasn't much of a sweetheart.
Talking about the girl. From your high school sweetheart.
Yeah.
Your high school sweetheart wasn't much of a
you
sweetheart.
date her 10th, 11th, and 12th. You always figured that you had her forever, but I didn't. I had her for 3 years.
Well, you got a better wife and a better life out of it. So.
We've been married 36 years.
36 years, man. I've been married 4, and that's
well. I'll
Didn't you
stop and wait and get you catch up with you.
Didn't you just hit your anniversary not too long
recently,
ago?
right?
Yeah, back in August.
Oh well,
I knew it was
late
pretty-
anniversary.
It's pretty recent though. That August, you know.
But so guys, thanks for tuning in tonight. We're about to call it a night. 2 hours, 16 minutes in. I'm getting a buzz going, and I'm ready to go home.
And I'm just getting started.
And he's just getting started. But this actually, we were talking about this off air. This might not be the only time that Larry's over here to do the show with us, because I'm sure we could come up with some other stuff to talk about.
Well, I can actually bring some
Stories.
photographs.
Yeah,
I can bring some photographs
talk about that.
and give you and give you a short story on each photograph that was taken. Now, there's in the album that I do have, there may be 4 or 5 of me standing there with my arm around a pretty Vietnamese girl. I can only tell you one story of one picture.
That would be good. I can take a photograph and put make like a YouTube video, make a video of it, take the photograph, and then I can have his talking behind it, describing each picture.
I want to know why when you see me in one picture with my quick draw with my 45 on my side.
I want to see it too.
Is my hand is bandaged, so I ain't doing much quick drawing. That can come up.
But this won't be the only time that Mr. Lur here and Christy says no nudes, no nudes.
Oh no, not allowed. No, I don't do that.
This is an explicit podcast.
But this won't be the only time that Mr. Larry graces our presence. So hopefully, maybe the next few weeks we'll get him back over for another show and
be happy
we'll
to
talk some more. Well, I just wanted to say one more time, and I think I can speak for everybody here at Exit 92 Radio. We say thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome.
And you deserve a thank you.
Definitely.
I'm
yeah,
sure
and the next
everybody out
time
there in the chat
the next time between now and then, I'll drag out the old photo album. Don't have too many cobwebs on it, but I can bring the whole thing or pick out a few and.
You want to go ahead and set up Happy Trails?
It's ready to go.
Ready to go.
All right.
So we all say goodbye tonight, ladies and gentlemen. The Big Bad Blue Bear.
DJ Hans.
And the Lord.
That's right.
Good
Thanks
night,
for
everybody.
tuning in. Good night. Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. As we say Happy Trails, brought to you by DJ Hans and the Big Bad Blue Bear.
Happy trails.
Trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you, 'cause you're my best friend. Yeah, I don't know what was a song, and I'm making them up as I go along. Happy trails to you. Yeah, you ain't gotta go home, but you can. Yeah, you can't stay here. I guess you could if you're gonna check out the Exit 92 Radio 24-hour service that we have for free. Yeah, happy trails. Happy trails. Happy trails to you.